Hi YouTube, this is Kareem from Mathemagic, and today we're going to focus on one of the three trig ratios. Trigonometry means the measure of triangles. Why are triangles so important? Well, because any shape in the universe can be broken down into triangles, probably even circles if you made like the average of small triangles inside and big triangles inside. And once you figured out triangles in 2 dimensions, then you can extend that to 3 dimensions. So triangles are a key component of mathematics because you can pretty much break down most shapes with it. So why are we so fussed about trigonometry and the measure of triangles? Well, because shapes are related to them. Now, of your trigonometric ratios, you have 3 key ratios which we learn at an early stage, which are the sine ratio, the cosine ratio, and the tangent ratio. And I often find that those are taught, but kids really struggle with understanding what it actually means. Like, what do you mean sine, cosine, tangent? What is this? This is so crazy. This is super complicated. Maybe the word is a little bit intimidating, but actually when you understand them as percentages, they make a lot of sense. And the easiest one to understand from my point of view is the sine ratio. And the sine ratio is found in a right angle triangle. So let's talk first about what a right angle triangle is. A right angle triangle is a triangle which has a right angle in it, so a 90-degree angle. Now, because the sum of the angles in a triangle is 180, the longest side is always opposite the right angle. So the longest side we call the hypothenuse. So whenever you're trying to find the hypothenuse in a triangle, first realize it only happens in right angle triangles, and then realize it's opposite the right angle. So this is the hypotenuse here, and it's opposite the longest side. Now think of this. This is the angle that I'm talking about, and I'm going to study today, or that I'm going to try and find today. So this angle here has a side which is touching it, and we call it the adjacent side, because whatever is adjacent to you is right next to you. Adjacent means next to, right? So the adjacent side to this angle is touching this angle. This side here is what we call the opposite side, because it's opposite this angle. So it's opposite the angle, like someone sitting across from you. So the first thing is you have to be able to identify who the hypotenuse, or which side the hypotenuse is, which is the longest side, and then which side is the adjacent side and which side is the opposite side. So again, the hypotenuse is always the longest side, it's opposite of the right angle, and then relative to this angle, this is the adjacent side, this is the opposite side. If I was to talk about this angle up here, the opposite side would be the bottom one, and the adjacent side would be that one, but the hypotenuse wouldn't change. Okay, so that's the first thing to understand, is how to identify which side is which. And the sine ratio is the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So in this configuration, there's the angle. My sine ratio would be this divided by this. But what does it mean, ratio? What are you talking about? Well, a ratio is like a percentage. Okay, so the reason why the sine ratio is so easy to understand is, think of it this way. If the opposite side is 1 and the hypotenuse is 10, what is 1 divided by 10? Well, the sine of alpha here would be 0.1. It means that the opposite side is 10% of the hypotenuse, which means that it's really small, okay? Now, if here, the ratio of the opposite side to the hypotenuse will be 9 divided by 10, which means the opposite side is 90% of the hypotenuse, which means it's quite big. So, think of it this way. Percentages, okay? Sine alpha equals 0.9. So if this is a 90% ratio against the hypotenuse, and if this is a 10% ratio against the hypotenuse, the angle here is big and the angle here is small. So for a big opposite side, you have a big angle. For a small opposite side, you have a small angle. Now that makes a lot of sense, right? So think of it this way. The bigger my opposite angle, the bigger the ratio, the bigger the angle, okay? The bigger my opposite side, the smaller my opposite side, the smaller the ratio, the smaller the angle. This is why sine is an aperture kind of ratio, where you think about the opening of the opposite side against the angle. Now, if you want to go from the angle to the ratio, you press the sine key. If you want to go from the ratio back to the angle, you press the inverse sine key on your calculator. Now, you need to practice, you need to do some exercises, but in terms of understanding percentages, this is how this works, okay? So I hope you found this interesting and useful. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's @MathMagicMD, and on Facebook, you can find us on facebook.com/HLMathemagic. Thank you so much, and please subscribe and follow our channel.